Hi, I'm Erica, a mom, wife, and caregiver. I have been through the highs and lows of having a child with a medically complex background and special needs, all caused by epilepsy. I'm here to let you know you're not alone. There are so many resources out there, and that you too can and will come out on the other side stronger and more resilient than you ever imagined. It's not always easy, but I'm here for you. Welcome to the Parenting Epilepsy and Special Needs podcast. With a friend, and they were telling me about someone that they knew who just found out that their child has epilepsy. It has changed their life, as you can imagine. They do not want their child out of their sight. They are calling around to local epileptologists trying to get their child diagnosed and treated. And they do not want their child to sleep alone, of course, in case they have a seizure. I can relate to all of this, and it brought me back to the beginning when our daughter began having seizures back in 2013. This conversation got me thinking, and knowing what I know now, what do I wish I knew then at that very crucial time when you are living in survival mode and trying so hard to figure it all out? Well, the first thing that came to my mind was not all doctors and or hospitals are created equal. First, get your child in front of multiple doctors until you find the one that confidently can diagnose and treat your child. As I've talked about in the past, in past episodes, the very first epileptologist that we had was far from the best. It was a doctor who was out of a local hospital near our home. And my gut was telling me after a few visits and phone conversations that it was time to move on. As our daughter's seizures continued to get worse, this doctor just kept increasing the dose of medication that was not working and for what she was dealing with at that time, added on additional medications that also did not work, and only unfortunately continued to heavily sedate our 4-month-old baby. I called other epilepsy departments within larger and more reputable hospitals nearby and ultimately got her in front of anyone that I could to help get us the answers we needed. The second doctor that we took her to, this was about just a few weeks after her seizure started. This doctor also agreed. He agreed with the plan that the doctor that we were currently working with had her on. And my gut still told me, no, this is not right. Finally, 2 months later, after waiting oh so patiently for an appointment at our local children's hospital in Chicago, we got her in for an appointment. And I also want to mention that this hospital also just happens to be a level 4 epilepsy center. At that time, I had no idea what that meant, but a level 4 epilepsy center offers the highest level of care for patients with complex epilepsy. They provide, for example, more intensive monitoring, advanced brain testing, and offer a much wider range of surgical options and other options to treat epilepsy. So we got to our appointment with the epileptologist, and she immediately knew what to do and confirmed that we were correct. Our current plan was not going to help her. She was able to diagnose our daughter with infantile spasms on the spot based on what she saw in the past EEGs that we had sent over. And then also, if I remember correctly, our daughter had a seizure right then and there. I also showed her videos of what the seizures were looking like prior to our daughter having the seizure. The doctor put our daughter on a newer medication that was specifically given to children with this exact type of epilepsy, and her seizures stopped immediately. I will always be grateful for this doctor and for trusting my intuition to keep pushing for answers. Okay, the next thing that I highly recommend doing and that I wish I would have done sooner is familiarize yourself with common epilepsy terminology and common signs of what different types of seizures look like. You can research the different types of seizures to help yourself explain to a doctor what you are seeing when your child has a seizure. Our daughter's seizure was the first seizure, at least for me, that I had ever seen. So I had no idea that there were different types, that I should be looking for triggers, I should be timing how long they were taking place, and the importance of describing what happens before, during, and then after a seizure. So, with our daughter's original diagnosis of infantile spasms, there were not any triggers. Those are mainly caused by, at least in our situation, a brain malformation. So, they occurred on and off throughout the day, and sometimes 40 times, other days 25 times a day. It was terrifying to watch. It's helpful to explain if your child is having an aura before a seizure, what the seizure looks like, and if your child still has awareness, sudden, say, prolonged staring, or seems to be unresponsive for a few seconds. Other things you may see are stiff body jerking, falling or dropping or drop seizures. Um, Other signs could include full body shaking, twitching, feeling odd sensations or repetitive motions on one side of the body. And then finally, a doctor may ask about your child's postictal state. This is basically the recovery period after the seizure ends, and it lasts until a child or person returns to their baseline. So there was a lot that I learned as a result of different conversations that we had with our doctors. But I will fully admit at that time early on, I didn't always know every every term that they were asking us about. And I would just say, can you explain that a little bit more? Can you explain what you mean? And ultimately, I educated myself on all these different terms that were very important to be aware of. Okay, the next thing that I wish I would have done sooner, find community, find your people. I can remember feeling so alone and isolated. I mean, obviously, I had my husband and there was family to talk to and friends, but really, you're kind of on an island at first because you don't have anyone to talk to who really, really knows what you're going through. At that time in my life, I was not on social media, and my daughter was diagnosed. So the thought of looking for groups on platforms such as, say, Facebook didn't even cross my mind. Our daughter's seizures, they were under control until she was around 18 months old. But then a different type of epilepsy came into play. So she was ultimately diagnosed with focal cortical dysplasia and began taking new medications to help manage the onset of these new seizures. The medications were not working, and now the topic of surgery was on the table. I can remember feeling so overwhelmed. I was on the phone with a nurse from our hospital in Chicago, and I asked if there was another parent that I could talk to who had already been through this. She said yes and connected me to another parent who was a volunteer through the hospital, but then who also had a daughter that had just had brain surgery for epilepsy as well. This was so helpful. This parent connected me to a larger community of parents through the Pediatric Epilepsy Surgery Alliance, formerly known as the Brain Recovery Project. I do not know where I would be without the support and advice of such an amazing community. It really, really helps to hear from other parents who are living with or have been through what you're going through and are also walking in your shoes. They can help you in so many areas from questions to ask at doctor's appointments to understanding when brain surgery is an option to preparing your child for school after brain surgery or before to finding out what shoes will work best with your child's AFOs or ankle foot orthotics. So find your people. I promise you will be so glad you did. So, in summary, you are your child's biggest advocate. Trust your gut and keep pushing and looking for a diagnosis and the right or most effective treatments. Do not let doctors, family, or friends tell you that your child may grow out of seizures. Yes, for some people this can happen, but if you suspect, as I did, that you're dealing with something major, do not settle. Educate yourself in the world of epilepsy and the terminology. It will help give you direction and better questions to ask. If you are not getting your questions answered or solutions that help your child, move on and keep looking. Finally, find your community. There is nothing that can replace parents who have experienced what you are going through and who may have the solutions or advice that you are searching for. So, thank you for joining me today. Please also share this episode with someone who could benefit from hearing it. Don't forget to write a review or rate this episode. It really means so much to me, and it helps get this show out to others who need this information. You can follow me on Instagram at parentingepilepsy_special needs. We'll see you on the next episode.